Jaliek Rainwalker's life was tough from the very start. Whilst his biological mother was pregnant with him, she was drinking and taking drugs throughout the pregnancy. So because of this, Jaliek, who was born on the 2nd of August 1995, was addicted to cocaine. Jaliek ended up being placed in a therapeutic foster system due to emotional problems and trauma from his early childhood. So although Jaliek was a kind, intelligent person, he did unfortunately suffer from reactive attachment disorder, which is a rare condition when a child hasn't had a chance to establish a healthy attachment to parents or any caregiver. This disorder may develop if a child's basic needs from birth, such as comfort and nurturing, were not met, and abandonment, neglect, along with other things, were in place instead of this during the infant's life. Although this is a rare disorder, this is a very serious one and needs to be treated long term through stability and nurturing environment with a caregiver who would be willing for a long-term psychological counselling and education, whilst creating a stable, nurturing home in order for the child to grow in a positive way. By the time Jaliek was 7, he had been in 6 foster homes. The last one was most promising. After being with his foster family, Larry and Jody Schoen, for 4 years, they had plans to adopt him, until he had a violent outburst towards one of the Schoen's daughters, which resulted in him being put into another foster family. In 2002, Stephen Burrell Kerr and Jocelyn McDonald, who already had 3 biological sons and an adopted daughter, decided they wanted to adopt Jaliek after having fostered him for 2 years. Stephen and Jocelyn led a very basic, unconventional lifestyle in a rural Washington County, New York. They had no running water, a toilet was in the outhouse, and electricity that only ran for a few hours a day from a generator. Also, the sleeping arrangements were that they all slept in the same room. On November the 1st, 2007, Jaliek, who was now 12, went missing. Jaliek had just come back from a respite care due to an incident that happened with another child. Stephen Kerr and Jocelyn thought that when he came back, it would be best if Stephen took Jaliek to stay at Stephen's parents' house in Greenwich, New York, who were not there at the time. They discussed reversing the adoption as they didn't want him there anymore after what had happened with the other child, which was threatening violent behaviour towards said child. It wasn't until the 2nd of November that Jaliek was actually reported missing to the police by Stephen at 9 a.m. and told investigators that he last saw his son at 9 p.m. the night before. When Stephen woke up at around 7:30 the next morning, he discovered that the bed had been stuffed with pillows to make it appear that he was still in bed. The search for Jaliek happened immediately. Jaliek was deemed a runaway when a note was discovered, therefore no Amber Alert was issued. The note read, "Dear everybody, sorry for everything. I won't bother you anymore. Goodbye." And another note that said Albany. Jaliek had 2 half-brothers that were from Albany, therefore investigators wondered if he was trying to make his way there. Jaliek had no money or anything that would see him through. Temperatures during this time were dropping, and Jaliek had no survival skills. Both half-brothers, one of which was in prison at the time, hadn't heard from Jaliek. There were searchers, helicopter and dogs involved in the search for Jaliek. Police Chief George Bell stated in the media that so far there was no evidence of Jaliek being a victim of foul play. Other investigators from the State Police Bureau joined in the investigation. Stephen appealed through the media to come home. Both Stephen and Jocelyn also took a polygraph test, but investigators wouldn't comment on the results of the test. There had been sightings of a person looking exactly like Jaliek, but it was confirmed that it wasn't. Still, no closer to finding Jaliek, there was a piece on FBI's Most Wanted. Stephen and Jocelyn now would only offer places of where Jaliek wanted to go before such as New York, so they suggested he could be there. By now, there were 150 leads that they had got, and all had been followed up, and still no closer to finding Jaliek. On top of everyone already searching, 50 more recruits were added to the list, including forest rangers. They all searched huge areas, but now at this point, it seemed that the authorities thought foul play could be involved. By now, it was January 2008, and Stephen became person of interest due to contradictions in his timeline. So Stephen had said Jaliek had gone to bed at 9 p.m. after they'd been out for dinner. Stephen said he went to bed not long after and did not leave the house, and woke up at 7:30 in the morning the next day. However, from Stephen's cellular phone, they were able to find out, due to cellular pings, that he was out at midnight when he claimed to be sleeping. There was a location ping from a tower that was near the Hudson River, which is a notorious site for dumping bodies. Also, by looking through surveillance footage, they saw a car that matched Stephen's car in the area around midnight. Unfortunately, they couldn't match the license plate or the person driving, so having someone drive around in exactly the same area that Stephen's cellular location pinged, also the exact same vehicle, including the colour of the vehicle Stephen had, was very suspicious. It became public knowledge that Stephen and Jocelyn did not want him there anymore. Jocelyn said the other children were afraid of the violent outbursts, so when Jaliek made the threat against the younger child, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and that's when Stephen decided to take Jaliek to Stephen's parents' home, as he was due to go to another respite home within a few days. Bizarre behaviour from Stephen was witnessed by people when he was seen tearing down posters of a vigil being held for Jaliek, which was reported to the police department. Barbara Neely, who is Jocelyn's mother, along with Jaliek's biological grandparents, was a big part of the search and fought hard to find the truth. Barbara publicly told media and investigators how Jaliek was treated from the time he was adopted to when he went missing. She became very vocal after he went missing and knew something had gone on. She had tried to gain custody if he was to be found, but it was not to be granted. In July 2008, she broke into her daughter's home to find out any information. Whilst in the home, she found a yellow sweatshirt that was supposedly the clothing Jaliek had worn when he went missing, which, although she got charged for burglary, to Barbara it was worth it. It pushed the authorities to look into the home one more time, so the police did, and they ended up finding the same sweatshirt. Barbara told media and police about Stephen's aggression towards the children, but mainly his anger would be directed towards Jaliek. An incident that was witnessed by Barbara was that one day when Jaliek was being difficult, Stephen's reaction was to take Jaliek and dunk his head into the river repeatedly. Barbara had said this was something that happened often. Other punishments would be locking him in his room for long periods of time. He was denied the use of the toilet, and in 2007, Barbara described Stephen's anger as getting a lot worse. Barbara and her daughter have not spoke to each other since Jaliek has gone missing, and have cut off all communication with each other. Months after the disappearance, Jocelyn and Stephen moved their family to Vermont, basically now cutting off all ties to anyone that was involved with the search, including the authorities. It is well known that after all these years, Stephen and Jocelyn are still not interested in calling in to find out any updates on the case. This has definitely not gone unnoticed. It is of the opinion the authorities and the public that they knew much more than they were letting on. Barbara had never given up in trying to find Jaliek, and George Bell, who ran the investigation, still kept the case going and following every lead. But unfortunately, George Bell passed away in 2018. And for Barbara, this was devastating. Not only did she get to know him, he was the one person who was dedicated enough to keep this case alive. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.